Today, we're gonna draw Squirtle from Pokemon. Are you ready, Mr. Ice Cream?
I am so ready. I love Squirtle.
Yeah, I love Squirtle too. Well, I'm glad you're excited. Before we get started, the only materials you need for this project are paper, a pencil, a black marker, and something to color with. So let's get started. So, we're going to start just by drawing the overall shape, which we're going to do really lightly with pencils. So, I'm going to draw like a little line here, like the top of his head is right there. His head is about this big. And then a little bump out for where his arm is. Little line for his belly. Another little line for his knee and his foot. And his other foot's gonna be right about here. And that knee goes back up to his other hand. And then got this shell on his back and a tail. So that's just a basic shape. So now we're gonna actually start carving the different features out of this shape. So we can kind of start over here by where his cheek would be and do a nice big curve all the way around like that. Then from there, do another big curve around for the top of his head. And then we can put in his mouth here. So right where this little cheek is, do a little curve there. And then straight across on the other side, but just a little bit up. Do another little curve. And then he's kind of smiling, but then he's got this beak. So it comes down in the middle like that. Two little indentations for his nose there. And then just above the corner of his mouth here, we can draw his eyes. So again, above the corner of this mouth. And that's just the bottom of the eyes. And then they kind of curve up a little bit. Now we're going to do a nice big oval that connects both of those. And then draw a big line coming down on both sides. A big kind of oval shape right in the middle there. And then I'm not sure what to call this shape, but from the bottom corner here, we kind of just go up like that and then curve down like that. And then same thing on this side, a little line going up, curve it around that oval, and then back down. And then kind of just color these in to make sure you know what the dark parts are. Again, I'm not coloring it too dark. Just kind of try and distinguish what parts are dark and what parts we're gonna add color to later. So then right where our little line is here that's bumping out for his arm, we're gonna do a nice big curve for his belly. And then just above that, coming out of his cheek, do a little curve for the top of his arm. A little point for a finger. Another point for his second finger. And then curve that right back up to his belly. And then he's just got kind of like a little triangle shape for a thumb here. And then we can draw his leg just below that. Curve like this. Shape like that for his toe. And then the next toe kind of overlaps that a little bit. And then one more exact same thing. And then curve that back with a line like that. And then here we just kind of do a little rounded heel. And bring that back up to the belly. And then where we stop this line, we can do a shape like this for where his other leg is going to attach. And then continue that down, like a little bit of a flare at the end. And then same thing on the other side. And then both of those sides kind of come up a little bit. And then down to a point for his middle toe. And now just below his chin here, we can draw this other arm. So a nice curve like that. A little triangle shape for his thumb. And then curve it right back around there. So it's just like a big oval with a little triangle bumping out. And then one triangle here for one finger, pointing kind of up. And another triangle for his other finger, kind of pointing sideways. And then we're just gonna connect a little curving line here. And another little curving line there. And then from right behind his head here, do another curve like that. And then right from the back of his arm here, go do kind of a wavy line like this. And connect it to where, I think it connects a little bit higher than that. Don't start drawing until you start erasing. So then, yeah, the reason I had this connect a little bit higher is because the back of his shell is going to start from here and connect like that. And then from where his arm is here, connect that, and from where this bump is, do a line like that. And then his tail starts right from where his shell meets his leg here. So we're just gonna do a big kind of spiral shape. And then right from the bottom of that, we're gonna curve down and back up for his tail. And then we're just gonna draw the front of his shell. So we do a little curving line, kind of angles down like this. And then right from inside where his leg connects here. I'm gonna go up here and then down to the other leg. And then this line's gonna kind of curve this way, but right from the middle here, curve down to meet the point there. And then from right where his knee is, and right where his arm is, we're gonna wanna meet those in a point. And then same thing over here, like right from where his knee is, back to his arm. And then we're gonna connect the points of both of those triangles back to the middle. And that's pretty much it. But I'm gonna add a few lines for some shadows here. So on the side of his face, I'm gonna do a line like that. And then his arm. Gonna do a line like that, and then right around his neck here, a little curving line, and then on this arm, I have a big curve like this that comes right down to that finger, and then curves down to his thumb, and then over here, another line that kind of curves, so his knee is going to be a little lighter. And then on this side, same kind of thing, so his knee is going to be a little lighter. And then on his shell, I'll curve down to this line. And then do another curve like that in between. And then connect that to the back, and then right here for the shadow on his tail, kind of curve down and up, and down and up again. And maybe this one goes a little bit higher. So that's pretty much it. So now we're gonna go back and darken this in with some Sharpies. So let's keep the party going. All right, so there's our black and white outline of Squirtle from Pokemon. One thing I forgot to do here was give him some eyebrows. Which are really just two simple lines like that. So now we can go back and erase our initial outline shape. Any excess lines. But we want to leave those pencil lines for where our shadows are going to be. So that we know where to color a little bit darker and a little bit lighter. To give this a little bit of a three-dimensional quality when we color it in. So right now would be the perfect time to just adjust any lines that you want, erase the ones you don't want. And now it's time to color this in. So let's go. All right, so there's our finished drawing of Squirtle from Pokemon. What do you think, Mr. Ice Cream?
I love it. This drawing of Squirtle looks so cute.
He does look kind of cute. So I hope the rest of you guys had fun today, and we'll see you at the next art party.
Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to save your seat at the next art party.
Today, we're going to draw Wartortle from the hit series Pokemon. Are you ready, Mr. Ice Cream?
Wartortle is a second stage evolution of Squirtle, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
Then color me excited.
All right, well, I'm glad you're on board.
Before we get started, the only materials you need for this project are paper, a pencil, a black marker, and something to color with.
So let's get started. So we're going to start just by drawing the outside shape of Wartortle here. So we're going to do a little line for the top of his head here. Kind of a little triangle for his one ear there. Another little triangle for his other ear. And bring that down kind of in the middle. And then a little triangle for where his arm's gonna be. A little line coming down for the front of his shell. And then a little line coming down for his leg. Bottom of his shell here. Line for his other leg. Shell on his back, and then another kind of triangle for that arm. And then just a big oval for his tail. So hopefully you can see this.
I can see it.
And then we're gonna start carving all the shapes out of this initial shape.
I think I get it.
Once we sort of have this, where he's gonna fit on the page and how he's gonna fill up the space, now we can start adding the details.
Yeah, that makes sense.
From this top triangle here, we're just gonna do a big curving line like that. And then a little bump like this. And then curve that right back up. And then we can put in his ear here. We have this triangle. Do a little line with a loop on it. And then overlap a little bit. Do another loop. And then one more like that. And then we draw a little curving line like this for the inside of his ear. And now we can draw his mouth across here. So it's kind of like a little smile with, it comes to a point in the middle for where his beak is. And then right where this little indentation is, you can draw a little line coming down like that. And then another line coming down like that. Because he's in fighting mode. So we gotta have these eyebrows looking serious. And then we connect those two lines. A little bit of a curve. And then we draw a side like that. Another line like that on the bottom. Another little half oval for the highlight in his eye. I can put two little lines like that for his nostrils. A little line like that for his eyebrow. And then one on the other side. And then just above the edge of this side of his mouth, that's where we can draw the other eye here. And right next to this is where we draw the top of the eye. And then want to let that overlap a little bit. And draw two curving lines down. And then do another oval like that for his eye. A little line inside of that. And a little bit bigger highlight on this eye. And then we can just go ahead and start coloring in that middle part where the eyes are going to be black. And now we can do his other ear over here. So we left a space here, so we're going to do a curve this way. And then wrap it around with a bump like that. Curve like this, just the opposite mirror image of what it is on the other side. And that's going to come back down to this one. And we do a nice curving line like this.
Wow, that looks like Wartortle.
Then right below the center of his mouth, we're going to do a little triangle like that. Middle of his shell, and then coming right out from his cheek here, do a little curving line for his hand. He's kind of got his claws like in a fist, so we're gonna do one claw like this, another one like that. And another one right there. And then from the bottom of this one, we just curve that right back here. Oh, and I forgot to add the teeth. So right on the edges of his mouth here, I'm gonna put two triangles like that for his teeth. And then we're gonna do a little curve like this, going to his arm, and then right where the arm meets that curve, we're gonna curve back around under his belly. And then we can draw his leg here. Just kind of curves down like this. And then only 3 toes on his feet here, so 3 little triangle shapes. And then that curves right back up to his belly. And then we can draw his other leg here. Start by doing a shape like that, and then continue that down, and 3 triangles for his toes, curve right back up like that. So now we're gonna do this other arm. So right underneath his chin here, do a curve that's just the opposite way of that, same size as this one. And then on top we come down like that. And we're kind of going to do the same thing as we did with these claws. We do the first one like this, pointing down. Then we're going to do it a little bit different and have one kind of pointing out like that. A little curve here, and then one more triangle like that. And curve that right back to meet the other line. And now in between his arm and his leg, I'm gonna do one line like that, and another line that follows the same path, except curves around and attaches to his leg. And then we can put the shell on his back. And this line's gonna kind of continue over here, so we do two lines like that. You see the back of his shell right here. Maybe I could make that a little bit bigger. And then leave a little bit of a space between the shell and his tail. Tail. It's gonna curve like this. Then from right in the middle, do one long line, one short line. And then from right on his leg here, if we imagine that this line just continued through his leg and would start about here, we do a little spiral the other way. And then we do one curving line here, one a little bit shorter, and then a curving line to connect those. And now we just got to do the front of his shell here. So right from kind of a little bit inside his leg here, we can go up and down like that, and then connect the point of this triangle to this one. Kind of a curving line like that. And then right in between his arm and his leg, kind of halfway between and halfway between, we can put a little dot there. And then do curving line that connects that. I think that's about it. So now, if you want to go to the next level, we can add some shadows. You don't have to do this part, but if you want to try to add the shadows, I think you can do it. So I'm going to do a little line here that's going to be a little bit darker than that. And this side. Just remember what lines are the shadows and what are your actual lines. So do the shadows a little bit lighter with your pencil. Because when we darken this in with the Sharpies, we're not gonna color our shadow lines with black marker. So I'm gonna do a little line in between his hands. Curves back up there. I'm gonna do a line on the side of his face that kind of curves down to his beak like that. And another line just by his tooth. Where this line connects here, we're going to do a little curving line to the other arm. Then another curving line like that, so it'll be lighter on the top than on the bottom. And then from this foot, we can curve up to his shell. And then right from where that is, I'm gonna curve around his shell and up to his arm. And then right from his leg here, do a little curve like that. And then on his tail, it's gonna be a little bit of a scratchy line, so kind of like this. A little bit of a scratchy line in between there. And then a little bit of a scratchy line like that. And that's it. So now let's go back and darken this in with some Sharpies. All right, so there's our super simple outline in black and white of Wartortle from Pokemon. So now I'm just going to erase my initial outline that we did, so the pencils don't bleed into my markers when I go to color this in. And then as soon as we're done erasing these pencil lines, it's time to color this in. Okay, I forgot one little thing, one little detail here. So I'm gonna put one curving line on his shell here. And then two shadow lines like that. So the shadow lines will keep them pencil. And this line will color with the... All right, so now let's add some color. All right, so there's our finished drawing of Wartortle from Pokemon. What do you think, Mr. Ice Cream?
I love this. Those light blue colors are radiant.
Yeah, I like those aqua colors too. It's because he lives in the water.
So it's like camouflage. That's so much fun.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had fun, and I hope the rest of you had fun, and we'll see you at the next art party.
Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to save your seat at the next art party.
Today, we're going to draw a Blastoise from the hit series Pokemon. What do you think about that, Mr. Ice Cream?
Blastoise is the next stage evolution of Squirtle and Wartortle, right?
Yeah, he is.
Then I'm excited. Let's rock and roll.
All right, well, I'm glad you're excited.
Before we get started, the only materials you need for this project are paper, a pencil, a black marker, and something to color with.
So let's get started. So we're going to start, as we always do, by drawing the overall shape of the character. So he's got these big guns on his back, so we're going to draw just kind of like those shapes. So just something like that. So now that we know everything's gonna fit within this shape and everything's gonna fit on the page nicely. So now we can start carving all of our details out of this. So let's see here. Why don't we just start like this, put a nice oval shape right there. And then another oval right on top of that. Bring that down, and then just a little bit of an oval shape on the bottom there. Two little diagonal lines coming out like that. And then continue that down. And then we're gonna add a little triangle right here for his ear. Line for the top of his head and make sure that connects. And then we do a line going this way. And like that for his nose. Line coming straight down and over for his eye. And then straight across from here, do a little line like that for his eyebrow. And then right on the bottom of this, do a line that goes straight out like that. Another line for the side of his eye. And then connect back like this. And then we draw another line for the highlight there. And actually, I think I should have made that over a little farther. So we're gonna put this eye a little farther over. Put the highlight in there. And we could just kind of color this in a little bit. So he's kind of looking that way. So now at the top of his head here, we can bring that down a little bit. Another line that's kind of parallel to this, going back up. And then come back down, and then triangle shape like that. Another triangle inside for his ear. And then from there, I come down and then curve around under his mouth. And then right where we curved here, I'm gonna do a curve going back up. Little line. And then a line coming down like that. And this is kind of a little bit closer to his nose maybe. And that line connects right there. So now we got his head. So now where these lines were, we're gonna put the little casing that goes around his guns there. Just like little two lines for a square on both sides. And we do a little diagonal line back behind his head there. And then actually, this original line that I had is kind of in the right place. There's a little bit of a curving line for the back of his shell. And then right where his ear is here, and do two curving lines like that. Inside one comes down like this. And the outside one curves around like that. And then we're going to do kind of a circle, but leaving the middle of it open. And then another one that kind of overlaps like that. And then one more almost circle, little space here for where his claw is gonna be. Do another little claw there. One more right here. And we could always like adjust these if we want to. Make them a little bit bigger or smaller. I might make the other parts of his arm a little bit bigger. All right, so now coming right out from underneath his arm here, there's this little piece of the back of his shell, and then that's gonna curve up and connect to his arm. So now it's kind of like a triangle shape for his armor on his knee here. So that's gonna curve right back around like that. And then below it, you can do two lines that curve down to his toes. And then he's just got one really big claw in the middle. And one more claw on the other side. And then right from where the back of his shell is here, can do two lines coming out like a triangle for his tail. And then same thing from the top part of this little bump. And curve that back around for the back of his shell. And then this part's a little tricky, but we'll just do a big circle right here. Another circle around it. And then make those get a little smaller as they come down. And then connect that with another circle shape. And then same thing we did over here. I draw two little diagonal lines. And then connect that to his back there. And then right from kind of where his ear is here, I'm gonna do two lines going up to connect to that. And then just on the other side of this, two lines that go up like that. And then connect them back like that. And then from this corner, I'm gonna come down on a diagonal like this. And then we'll erase that part of the shell there. Do one little line for the back of the shell. And then from this line here, we're gonna go up a little bit and then curve that into his chin. And then we can do his other arm over here. So right from like just above his eye here, we can curve around like that. And then from his cheek, We'll do another curve. And then right from the edge of his cheek here. Do one big long curve that comes all the way to his other leg here. And then we're going to do one more curve like that. I'm going to put a big circle here. I'm going to add some claws to that. And we'll erase this so his hand is coming over top of his stomach there. So we got 3 claws on both hands. And then right from where this claw is, I'm going to do a line that comes across this way. And then from his hand, another line that comes across. Then from right where his armor on his knee is, one more line like that. And then we can do the armor on his other knee here. And then his leg underneath. One small claw. One giant claw. Another one behind. And then connect that right back. And then one more claw on the back of his leg there. Really, that's it. So now let's go back and darken this in with some Sharpies and keep the party going. All right, so there's our finished black and white outline of Blastoise. So as you can see, I changed a lot of my lines, as I was saying, as I was drawing the pencil lines, made these hands a little bit bigger. So now we just got to go back and erase the underneath pencil lines from our initial shape. All right, and now it's time to color this in. So let's go. All right, so there's our finished drawing of Blastoise from Pokemon. What do you think, Mr. Ice Cream? Did you have fun?
This was so much fun. I'm learning so many new drawing techniques. I can't wait to see what's next.
All right, well, I'm glad you had a good time, and I hope the rest of you had fun, and we'll see you at the next art party.
Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to save your seat at the next art party.
Today, we're going to draw Mega Blastoise from the hit series Pokemon. What do you think about that, Mr. Ice Cream?
On a scale from 1 to 10, I'm at least an 11.
Well, I love your enthusiasm.
Before we get started, the only materials you need for this project are paper, a pencil, a black marker, and something to color with.
So let's get started. So there's a lot of detail in this, so if I go a little fast, just remember you could always slow down the video. But we're gonna start off the same way that we always do by drawing the overall shapes really lightly with pencils. So I'm gonna draw kind of a rectangle shape like this. Comes down with a little diagonal. And then kind of a triangle here. Comes back up. A little triangle on that side. And then diagonal back up this way. So, if you have that shape, now we're gonna start carving out all of our details. So he's got this giant gun on his back here. So we're gonna do a circle right here, kind of more of like an oval, and then draw another partial oval around that. And then following the lines of a rectangle there, I'm gonna bring that back like that. And then we're gonna draw a partial oval like this. And then we can draw two little lines like that. Another partial oval like this. A line going up on both sides, following this same diagonal here, and then curve that around at the back. Now, right from this one, we can just continue that line and come straight down over here, and then bring that line back here. And then starting right from the edge of the barrel of the gun, come down a little bit, and out, and then down. And then starting over here, come down just a little bit. Now we can draw his face right in here, so do a curve like this. Another curve like that, a little backwards curve, and then a line over here, a little curve up for the edge of his mouth, put two little nostrils there, and then from here, right from where this line connects, we're gonna go up and out, and then down, and then back on a diagonal. And then we're gonna put his eye right in there. And then right here, we're gonna go up and over and out. And curve back down. Not quite to his mouth, but almost. And then not quite connecting here, but I'm just gonna draw a straight line up here, curve it back down, and then connect it back there. Then we draw a line coming down from the middle here, connect it back there. One line for his iris, and a little circle for his pupil on both sides. And now, right inside this curve here, can draw a little loop for his mouth. Another loop inside that for his tongue. And then just outside, we keep that line really skinny. And then curve it back down. And then slightly overlapping where his mouth is. And curve back to meet at the bottom of his chin. So now we can do his arm cannon here. So we do a line coming up, 2 bumps right there. Kind of a semicircle here. And then another line right here, semicircle next to it. And then connect that. A curving line right there. And then this one we're going to curve right back up under his chin. And put another curving line here. One right there. And then starting just next to this line, I'm going to do another curve up to meet that. So now we're going to draw the claws on his hand. So one claw here. Another claw, and then slightly overlapping for the third one. And then we can finish the rest of this circle. And then right behind his hand, we're going to do another oval here. And then another line outside it. And then from here, we're just going to kind of go up and over. Perfect. So now, let's see, from his ear here, kind of right in the middle of his ear, we can curve down, connect under his chin. And then from right here, curve back down this way. And then we can draw his leg here. Just gonna come out like that and then go back up and over and down, kind of angular. And then curve back up like that. And then 2 more lines coming down, and then he's got some giant toenails here. Alright, not bad so far. So now we can come down right next to his ear here and do a diagonal line going down this way and then over like that. Curving line like this. And then a little straight line. Partial circle here, and then we're going to do closer to a circle than an oval there, and then another line curving curving around the outside, which gets a little bit skinnier, and then connects on that side. And let's do 2 more lines and connect that with a little semicircle. And then we're going to draw kind of a rectangle shape around that. Another rectangle around that. And then 2 lines. Kind of want to follow this same path here. Kind of like that. And then from where the top of this box is, curve around like this. Another line there. And then as if these were continuing, do another line here. Curve back up to the bottom like that. Now we can keep this line going down, and we'll do one giant claw in the middle here, another one kind of curving upwards, and then his other claw just kind of on the outside there. And then this part of the shell goes slightly behind this little gearbox thing here. It comes out the bottom this way. And then we're going to curve this around like kind of an S curve. And now we can draw his other leg in here. Same kind of angular shape there. And his giant claws here. Comes down a little bit more. And then this little triangle tail sticking out here. And then starting right under the gun here. Gonna curve back around and connect there. Gonna make this a little less angular. And then put 2 lines on the back of the shell. And then where we started to do this here, we're gonna add this line diagonal coming up and over. And where this goes diagonal down, we're gonna do that. And then curve that right back into his back. So I think maybe I want to have this leg come down a little Remember what I always say, you don't start drawing until you start erasing. Alright, so this is going to bump out here and here. Right. And then we just gotta draw a couple stripes across his chest that curve like this. And that's it. So now let's go back and darken this in with some Sharpies. All right, so there's our black and white outline of Mega Blastoise. So now I'm just erasing some of our initial pencil lines from that first shape that we put down and a few of the little corrections that I made so they don't smudge into our color markers. And then if you want to go to the next level, I'm going to add a few lines for shadows here. Just to kind of show where my darks and lights are going to go. Well, that's about it. So now it's time to color this in. All right, well, there's our finished drawing of Mega Blastoise. What do you think, Mr. Ice Cream?
Can I just say that this drawing of Mega Blastoise looks so awesome?
Yeah, he is pretty awesome. Did you have fun?
So much fun. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd rate this project a 12.
Well, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. So I hope the rest of you had fun, and we'll see you at the next art party.
Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to save your seat at the next art party.